What if the most dominant figure in European history was not a king, but a banker named Jakob Fugger? His net worth would be a staggering $400 billion in today's money. He wasn't just rich. He held kings, emperors, and popes in the palm of his hand. At his peak, he was Europe's de facto ruler, shaping state policies to expand his business. He was a major force in the rise of capitalism and modern finance. But his actions also divided the continent, leading to a war that would last for decades. I want to explore how this man became one of history's most successful and controversial bankers. This is the story of Jakob Fugger. Let's begin with his family's very modest start. His grandfather, Hans Fugger, was a peasant weaver from a small village. They were a simple working-class family, far from wealthy. But Hans was fiercely ambitious. He moved to the city to escape the grip of oppressive nobles. There he worked tirelessly as a tradesman and married a guildmaster's daughter. By doing this twice, he gained more civic rights and commercial freedom. As his trade grew, he joined the guild's committee and the city's council. He worked his way up from a humble farmer to a successful merchant. He set the stage for the Fugger dynasty's incredible ascent. His son, Jakob I, would achieve even greater success. Like his father, he had a natural gift for commerce. Jakob I watched his relatives lose fortunes through rash decisions. He was determined to avoid their mistakes and took a much more calculated approach. He managed his risks by diversifying into many proven businesses. His careful and industrious methods paid off handsomely. By 1463, he was a full member of the Merchants' Guild. This cemented his status among the city's mercantile elite. Jakob I had 11 children in total. These children inherited a highly efficient business empire. They continued to expand the family business using their father's cautious but bold strategies. They diversified into textiles, spices, jewels, and even religious relics. The youngest son, Jakob II, would take the family's enterprise to unheard-of heights. He ironically wanted to avoid the family business and pursue a religious life. If things had gone differently, he might have become a priest or even a cardinal. But his older brothers saw his natural talent for numbers and insisted he join them. Jakob II was sent to Venice to train at the family's new agency. Starting in 1478, he studied modern bookkeeping and Italian finance. This experience gave him crucial insights into banking and trade. After returning in his mid-20s, he took charge of the family agency in Innsbruck. As a financier, he proved to be very different from his relatives. He was intelligent but embraced risk, unlike his cautious father and brothers. This daring attitude would come to define his career. He soon made his biggest gamble, targeting the patronage of a powerful Habsburg noble named Sigismund. Sigismund was infamous for his extravagant lifestyle and terrible financial management. He spent fortunes on grandiose parties like one where a dwarf jumped out of a pie to wrestle a giant. To fund this lifestyle, Sigismund took out loans he often couldn't repay. But where others saw only recklessness, Jakob Fugger saw opportunity. He managed to get involved in one of Sigismund's borrowing sprees. The amount Fugger lent was small, but it was a strategic move. It solidified his relationship with Sigismund and the powerful Habsburgs. This connection was vital, as it gave Fugger access to the lucrative mining industry. By helping Sigismund, he took a calculated risk that paid off enormously. It launched Fugger's career as a banker, preying on Sigismund's financial irresponsibility. For example, during a military skirmish with Venice, Sigismund was financially stranded. Large bankers refused him money due to his poor credit, leaving him desperate. Guess who stepped in to offer a lifeline? Fugger saw his chance and gambled his family's entire fortune. He raised every coin he could and lent Sigismund 100,000 florins. This was a make-or-break moment, but the potential profit was massive. Fugger was smart and placed tough conditions on the loan. He forbade repayment with silver and instead demanded control of the state treasury. Other bankers laughed at Fugger's apparent recklessness. They were convinced he would never see a penny of that risky loan again. But Fugger thought more strategically and was willing to take the chance. Imagine the look on their faces when wagons of silver arrived at his warehouses. The gamble had paid off spectacularly. Fugger was now a far wealthier man with a powerful noble ally. The young Fugger's bold moves had transformed his family's fortunes. He not only secured their financial future, but made the Fugger name synonymous with banking. This was just the beginning of a long and illustrious career. From this venture, Jakob Fugger gained not just wealth, but also political connections. He used them to get involved in mining operations in Silesia. There, Jakob met a mining expert and used his knowledge to lease the best copper mines. Under his leadership, he opened the greatest mining center of the era, and it didn't stop there. The Archduke Sigismund of Austria gave Jakob access to the mother of all silver mines. This was repayment for a loan that had funded the Archduke's lavish lifestyle. Because of the Fugger's industrial activities, people flocked to Schwaz. It became the largest mining metropolis in the world in the first half of the 16th century. It's important to remember that copper was essential for making cannons and bayonets. The Fuggers now had a near monopoly on this incredibly valuable resource. They could set the price, which significantly boosted their wealth and influence. To scale their operations, the Fuggers established the first public company in 1494. They started it with a capital of 54,000 guilders. Just 2 years later, Jakob doubled this amount by bringing in a silent partner. Jakob's vision was clear: create a copper monopoly and become the richest man in the world. He expanded aggressively, opening foundries across Central Europe. He also grew their sales network, focusing on their agency in Antwerp. The city was a growing hub of global trade, and the Fuggers were its unofficial rulers. Then a crisis hit that made him fully appreciate the role of power in building wealth. His chief creditor, the Prince Bishop of Brixen, died, and the Pope claimed the inheritance. This was a huge sum of money, about to be taken by a more powerful figure. But Fugger didn't panic. He used his negotiation skills and political network. Sources say he had very interesting conversations with the Vatican to protect his interests. He not only averted disaster, but also learned a valuable lesson. Power is everything. He realized he had to seize power at all costs. This transformed Fugger's approach to his business and alliances. He began to see people as pieces in a great game, to be used or discarded. He also decided to ditch his old patron, Sigismund, for a new one. He aligned with Sigismund's cousin, the future Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I. When Maximilian threatened to seize power, Fugger could have helped Sigismund, but that's not what he did. Fugger preferred Maximilian and financed his efforts to take Vienna. This was a smart move, as Maximilian was a far more capable ruler. His rise to power opened new doors for Fugger. The emperor granted him access to Hungary, a key region for copper mining. Fugger seized the chance, reconfigured Hungary's mines, and expanded his empire. In 1507, Jakob acquired 2 counties from Maximilian. The Fuggers were now effectively high-ranking nobles in all but name. Jacob's influence continued to grow, but his rivals grew envious. When other bankers pressured Maximilian to cut him out, Fugger fought back. He used his power to pressure influential dukes and bishops to force Maximilian to relent. In 1514, the emperor officially recognized Jakob's power by making him a count. Maximilian had good reason to stay on Fugger's good side. He was the emperor's most valuable ally and chief financial backer. As the emperor's health failed, he needed Jacob's help to secure the throne for his successor, Charles I. After Maximilian died, Jakob fulfilled the emperor's wishes. He raised almost 544,000 guilders for Charles' election, defeating his rival. Fugger officially financed around 64% of the election expenses. There was no way Charles wouldn't be indebted to him. This kind of political donation might seem like corruption today. Back then, it was customary for rulers to showcase their economic power. This massive financial support secured Charles' position and solidified Fugger's influence. Fugger was a long-term strategist, so he didn't just back one side. He made sure to secure alliances with other powerful nobles as a counterbalance. This included King Henry VIII of England. By doing so, he ensured his family's power extended beyond the Holy Roman Empire. With his influence growing, Fugger set his sights on his next target, Rome. He took over the transfer of donations from Germany to Rome, earning him the title God's Banker. He became the top financier of the Vatican overnight. He even took the initiative to pay Swiss mercenaries to protect the Pope, establishing the Swiss Papal Guards. Soon, the Fuggers were handling all remittances to the papal court. They managed funds from the sale of indulgences and minted coins for the Roman mint. All in all, Jakob Fugger served 7 popes and minted coins for 4 of them. His financial skill was pivotal in funding projects like the Sistine Chapel. This shows his commitment to being an influential architect of Europe's destiny. Jakob Fugger now had immense influence over both the emperor and the pope. He held both political and spiritual power in his hands. This man of peasant origins had achieved a level of power beyond that of kings. When his brother Ulrich died in 1510, Jakob assumed sole control of the family business. He became the undisputed master of European finance, wielding influence that would shape history. From that moment on, Jakob's fortune grew so rapidly that historic events were driven by his business. He dictated to Emperor Maximilian a marriage alliance with Hungary. This redrew the map of Europe and created the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The merger allowed for a better defense against the expanding Ottoman Empire. For Fugger, however, this move was simply to protect his holdings in Hungary. Meanwhile, in Rome, Fugger was pivotal in ending the church's ban on usury. Charging interest on loans had long been considered a sin, but Jakob saw the need for change. In alliance with other merchants, he urged the Pope to repeal the medieval ban. Fugger's efforts to legalize interest marked a breakthrough for capitalism. It accelerated debt financing and set the stage for the modern economy. At his peak, he could threaten the most powerful nobles if they fell behind on payments. In 1523, he wrote a stern letter demanding payment from Charles I. Think about this. Charles was the most powerful man in Europe, with 81 titles. Yet Fugger had the guts to write, "Your Majesty would not have the imperial crown without me." He ended with, "Pay me without further delay." That is real influence. However, Jakob Fugger's greatest contribution to history was one he never intended: the Reformation. The Fugger family's involvement in selling indulgences drew many critics. People saw the Vatican as having sold itself to a greedy merchant. Accusations even flew that the Fugger family had connections to the devil. This contributed to the Protestant Reformation, led by a priest named Martin Luther. The sale of indulgences was a practice where the church sold certificates to absolve sin. It was criticized as corruption, exploiting people's fear of damnation for financial gain. The corruption within the church influenced Martin Luther to publish his 95 Theses. His challenge to the church's practices sparked widespread religious and social upheaval. Many people also held grievances against the Fuggers and the Pope for legalizing usury. While it helped wealthy businesses, it also enabled predatory lending that trapped the poor in debt. This worsened social inequalities and created more hate against the Pope, the Emperor, and Jakob Fugger. The far-reaching effects of Fugger's financial strategies ultimately sowed the seeds for the 30 Years' War. This devastating conflict, born from the Reformation, led to immense loss and suffering. Estimates suggest that 20% of Europe's population perished during the war. The war's brutality reshaped the continent's political and social landscape. So far, we've covered Jakob Fugger as a master financier and power broker. But what was he like as a person? Despite being one of history's wealthiest men, Jakob himself had few wants. He preferred a simple lifestyle, focused solely on expanding his business. In his own words, "I want to gain while I can." His greatest asset was his immense willpower. He faced legal actions, social unrest among miners, and revolts in his hometown. Whatever he was confronted with, through sheer tenacity, Jakob was able to overcome it. But some challenges would haunt him until his last years. His resolve was tested when he saw his life's work and his church threatened by the Reformation. The movement undermined the Catholic Church, which had been crucial to his empire. As criticism of him grew, he fought against the new movement to protect his legacy. However, his aging body could not keep up with the strain. He died in the winter of 1525 at the age of 66. His empire was left to his nephew, as Jakob himself never had children. Jakob Fugger's financial acumen and political influence permanently shifted the course of history. If the Medici gave birth to modern capitalism, it was Jakob Fugger who perfected it. In doing so, he created immense power and wealth, transforming Europe's economy. But his decisions also played a role in some of Europe's darkest chapters. If you've stuck around to the end, I'd appreciate it if you left a crown emoji in the comments.